Hey there, this is Anita from the Wise Women's Workplace, and I'm here to share with you insights that made the difference in my journey from administrative assistant to executive director and beyond. Over the years, I've collected lessons learned on how to become a sought-after employee, and I want you to know them too, so that you are finally valued for your real contribution at your workplace. So, let's get started. Hi, this is Anita from the Wise Women's Workplace podcast and Facebook group. Today we're going to talk about actions or words feeling personal at work and working out whether they really are or not. I'm a sensitive person. Some would call that thin-skinned. I think I'm just respectful, nice, and care about people, and I like people to be that way back to me. So it has sometimes been a challenge for me in the workplace when I've worked with someone less than, respectful, nice, and caring. Let's put that in perspective, though. I'm not talking about criticism from my boss, although that can sting when I hear that I'm doing less than my best work or have misunderstood the brief. That will maybe be a future topic, maybe. Or maybe people disagreeing with my suggestions in a meeting. That's normal. But what I'm talking about is when it feels like actions, words, attitudes of somebody else are really aimed at you personally and with malicious intent. Why do some people have to be so mean? I've experienced this with a boss and with a colleague in the past, and boy, does it hurt. And I tried so many ways to counter their unfriendly or what I would consider downright disrespectful behavior, and often it seemed to not work at all. And then if I shared that with people around me, I would often be told, "Oh, don't let it bother you. It isn't personal. It's just work. They're jerks." But really? How can it not be personal? First of all, you spend a significant portion of your day at work, and you put your heart and soul into doing a good job, so it has to be personal, right? Also, why are they doing this to you and not someone else? That also feels really personal. Well, if I'm doing this podcast, it's probably because I've learned it really isn't personal. Now, stay with me, because I'm going to explain why I really believe it isn't personal, and I'm going to share some ways that I found to make it less personal, or feel less personal, so that if you have this issue too, you can maybe also change your mindset and take things less personally when it makes sense to do so. And let me mention one thing before we get started. Workplace bullying is a different thing. And if you're truly getting bullied in your workplace, I would really recommend talking to human resources about it. And if it's affecting your mental or physical health, please consider changing your job in your organization or moving to another organization altogether, because no job is worth jeopardizing your health in the long run. Okay, so like I said, I had a boss and a colleague that I felt were really not nice, and things they said or did often felt like they were really personal attacks on me. With the colleague, I noticed that this person would criticize my ideas or proposals or budgets every chance possible. And I went through a process of trying to improve the situation. First, I tried to make more personal contact, as I kind of thought, well, it's harder to be nasty with someone you know. But that wasn't really easy to do because we were in different locations and there wasn't much opportunity to see each other anyway. I tried to support her ideas when possible, but that too was a challenge because I didn't agree with the ideas she was proposing usually. So I tried to pick out portions of the idea that I could support, but then it felt like that sounded a bit flimsy, and even though I really meant it when I would support that part of the idea, I think it made her react negatively, as if I was really making a stealth attack because we didn't really trust one another. And when she would deconstruct my proposals, I just tried to ignore her and move on. But quite frankly, even if her attack didn't always impress the boss, it left me feeling really aggressed, and I would feel bad for some time afterwards. My team would even see me afterwards and tell me I was all red in the face. So, being nice wasn't really effective for me in that case. So then I tried it, being more assertive. I got clear on why her ideas weren't good or very directly confronted her when she criticized my ideas and proposals. And to tell you the truth, it got her to back off a bit after a while of doing it, but it took a lot out of me and it wasn't a sustainable situation. Quite frankly, I knew this was not a way that I wanted to behave. I find this unprofessional, a waste of time and energy, and I couldn't be proud of that behavior when I thought about how my team would think about me if they heard me behaving that way. So here I was, faced with what I was really taking as personal attacks, and people still telling me, it's not personal. And I started feeling like I was being really immature about the whole thing. Like, come on, toughen up, Anita, just grow up. It's just work. But like I said, putting so much effort into my job and having this one person being able to influence how my work experience was going really, really annoyed me. So when I thought through this and I kept hearing it isn't personal, I had to really stop and think about what that meant, because even people I respected were saying that. And I finally came to the conclusion that it's true. It isn't personal, or at least not in the way that I thought it was personal. Thinking through it helped me to see that there are at least two things to consider here. What is truly aimed at me, an attack on my person as an individual, and what I believe is aimed at me and I choose to take personally. Clearly, an action, behavior, words that are truly aimed at you is personal. If someone is attacking your being with aggressive and bullying behavior, it is personal, and that behavior has no place in the office or anywhere else for that matter. And I had to admit that my colleague wasn't saying things like, you're stupid, and she wasn't even saying, your idea is stupid, but it felt like she was insinuating that. Insinuating. Well, that actually leaves the comment up to interpretation. So now we're getting into some other territory. Maybe this touches on belief rather than fact. And maybe it touches on things like my own confidence, or maybe on her competitiveness, or her confidence, but not really so much on her attacking me for who I am. And when I started thinking in those terms, I could even see where maybe her behavior was about insecurity and wasn't about me at all. Maybe I was just in her way of getting her idea through, or maybe she knew I had the boss's ear and was afraid I would influence him, and so she wanted to discredit me beforehand. But all of that would actually be coming from her and wasn't really personally against me. It was about how I was potentially influencing or going to influence her success. So I came to the conclusion that it really isn't personal, at least not that aspect of it. So what I did that really helped was to simply decide that it isn't personal. And just that mindset shift really helped to get a better perspective on the situation and to feel much better about it. Now, I'm not going to pretend that this totally resolved the conflict that I was having with my colleague. She and I still didn't love interacting with one another, but it significantly changed how I felt about the situation, and in particular about how I felt after our interactions. And I noticed pretty quickly that when I shifted the focus to being entirely on the work at hand, something changed in her attitude and also in my boss's attitude. Like suddenly my boss was relieved to not have to moderate during the discussions and actually showed annoyance with my colleague when she was still acting in that negative way. And she saw it too, and soon started behaving better. Okay, we never became friends, but we learned to leave each other pretty much alone, and that helped the way I felt about the situation tremendously. You see, not only was there less tension, which was good for everybody, but for me, I didn't feel personally attacked anymore, and that was truly major. So, to recap, 1, if someone is really aggressing you, verbally or physically threatening you or bullying you, this is serious and it needs to be reported and addressed immediately. 2, if you're taking comments from a colleague personally, then maybe you need to take a step back and try to think about it in a different way, maybe from a different perspective. Try to think about how you could be seen as a threat to this person and see how your position could be influencing this person's behavior. 3, see if making the deliberate choice to interpret their comments differently can help you feel better about the situation and actually lead to the situation improving. It's never fun when you have tension at work, and people can behave really badly. Even if it's not always what I call HR sanction worthy, it can be really bad for you, and I don't want to diminish that. But I do want to encourage you to try to get straight on where precisely the problem originates. If it's something you can change with a shift in your mindset, that's fantastic because it's something you can do instantly to get relief for yourself and significantly improve the situation over time. Clearly, if it's your boss, that's a little different than if it's your colleague, as your boss has so much more influence over your situation. So I'll revisit this topic again in the future and talk about that. And then there's also the group of us who have taken work so personally that we have trouble separating our personal identity from our professional identity. So I'll have an episode on that one too. So if you're interested in those topics and want to be informed when more podcasts are available with tips on how to become a sought-after employee, I encourage you to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already done so. And you should receive automatic notification when new episodes come out. And by rating the podcast, you can help me know that you appreciate what you're hearing, and it will help other wise women find a resource that could help them too. Then, I invite you to join the Wise Women's Workplace Facebook group to be part of a free but valuable community of women helping each other in the workplace. That's where we can get more in depth about these kinds of topics and answer your specific questions. You can find it on Facebook by typing www.facebook.com/groups/Wise Women's Workplace. And you will find free resources on the website www.wisewomensworkplace.com. I love hearing from listeners how this content is helpful. There are many more helpful tips on the way, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. In the meantime, thank you for listening, take care of yourself, and be wise.